All right. So today is all about vocabulary about circles. Okay, so some of these you've seen before, such as radius and diameter. The radius of a circle goes from the center to the side. So it goes from the center of the circle to the side of the circle. That's your radius. Okay, and there isn't one in this picture, that's why I'm drawing it in. Okay. The diameter of a circle goes from side to side through the center. So this would extend and that's going to be your diameter. Okay? So hopefully you know those. We actually covered those last chapter. So if your radius is 1, what's your diameter? 2. And if your diameter is 12, what's your radius? 6. Good. These new vocab words, the first one is a chord. A chord is highlighted here in red. It goes from side to side and stops on the sides of your circle. Okay? So it goes from side to side and it stops on the circle. So that's a chord. Diameters can be chords. They're just a special type of chord. Okay? But a chord goes from side to side and it stops on the circle. A secant goes from side to side and it goes through the circle. Okay? So you'll notice the secant here is in blue. Do you guys see how it has angle or arrows on the ends? Okay, that means it's a secant because it goes through your circle. Questions on that? And then finally, we have the tangent. A tangent just touches the side of your circle in one spot. So it touches the side of a circle in one spot. So for example, if I were to draw this in, that blue line would be considered a tangent because it touches the side of the circle. And that's what it means to be tangent. Your point of tangency is that point where it touches. Okay, so you'll notice in the picture, point of tangency is highlighted. Well, it's the spot where it just touches your circle. Questions on those vocab words? So on your IXL, it's a little bit different, but on your but on your test, it's going to look something like this. Okay, I'm going to tell you or give you a list of things, and you have to tell me from the picture what would be one of those. Okay, so for example, let's start with chord. A chord stops on each side. What would be a chord in this picture here? KM. If we go from K is, it stops, to M, I know it looks like M keeps going, but it actually stops because if it did keep going, the arrow would have been over here a little bit more. Okay? So from K to M is a chord. When you label a chord, you have to put a segment on top, because that's demonstrating to me that you understand it's stopped. Okay, let's do the chord in the next one right away. Okay, so KM with a segment over it is a chord in the first one. What's the chord in the second one? QR. QR with a segment over it is the chord in the second one. And so what's kind of nice is if you remember, I have to put what happens to it on above it. It's kind of a nice thing to know. Whatever it did in the picture is what I have to put above it in this when we write it down. Tangent. So in this one, there's actually two ways to write tangents. In this one, we have to call it line M. So line M would be our tangent line in this circle because it doesn't have 2 points on it. That lowercase m is not a point. Okay, points are labeled by uppercase. And so we would call it line M. That little m is referring to a line. Now in our other picture, we were lucky enough that they actually gave us 2 points on the line. And so this one's tangent would be UV, and you would put the line over it, because you guys see how it had arrows? So then I know I have to put arrows above it in this picture. The first picture actually has 3 radii. So remember, radii is the plural form of radius. What's 1 radii in this picture? KL. And KL should have what over it? A segment, right? What's another one? JL, I think I heard someone say. And what's the last one? ML or LN. So each of these is the radii. Okay. This second picture also has 3 radii. Okay. What's 1 in this next picture? TP. Good. And radii and diameters are all going to have segments over them. So TP, what's another one? QP. And what's the last one? SP. Now on your test, I just say, give me 1. Okay, so if you just gave me 1 and it was correct, I would count it as right. I don't say, give me all of them. Okay, does that make sense? So if you just give me 1, I would count it as right, but there's actually 3 total. So let's go to secant. So remember, secant has arrows on it, right? And it goes through the circle. So in this first picture, what's the secant? JM. And with a secant, what do you have to draw on top since it goes through? Arrows. Okay. What about the next picture? ST. ST is the one that goes through it. And then you would draw a line on top, making sure those arrows go on the end. Lastly, we have diameter. What's the diameter in the first picture? It's KM, right? What's the diameter in the second picture? ST. Radii and diameters both have just segments over them. So it would be like that and that. Okay? Question on identifying each one. Okay? This is what your test is going to be like. Okay? It'll also be what your review is like. So just know that. That's what your test is going to look like. Now on your IXL, they have a bunch of other things that they ask you to find. Okay? So we are going to write down what they are. You might see them on your IXL. Okay, it just prevents a million questions for things. Congruent circles. What does it mean if 2 circles are congruent? They're the same. So you want to draw two circles that are the same. That is a congruent set of circles. Mine are not close to the same, but do your best. Concentric circles mean they have the same center point. Okay, so they have the same center, meaning it looks like a donut. That's what concentric circles look like. They have the same center point. Okay, so it looks like a donut. Okay, and tangent circles mean that they're touching. Okay, so tangent circles mean that you have two circles touching. And there's two ways this can happen. So these two circles are tangent. You can also have something that looks kind of like an eyeball and have them be tangent. So tangent circles means that they're touching. They touch in one spot. Okay? Arcs. There's two types of arcs that they're going to go through. A major arc means that it's more than half. So for example, if they give you a circle and they highlight this half, see my blue half? That's a major arc because it's more than half the circle. A minor arc is the other type you're going to see today. A minor arc is less than half. So a minor arc, let's do it in pink. A minor arc is if you have a circle and maybe they highlight that portion. That's a minor arc, less than half. A sector is like a piece of pizza or a piece of pie. It's a piece of it. So you're going to have a circle and it'll highlight a piece like that. There is one more vocab word that we need to cover, and that is central angle. A central angle looks like this. It's an angle that comes from the center of your circle. So a sector is when the whole thing is highlighted. A central angle is when it's just the angle is highlighted. Okay? So that's the last vocab word you're going to see.